Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the session of Inspiring Conversation. My name is Héðinn, but that's difficult, so you are allowed to think of me as Hedin. Now, I want to tell you why I am doing these sessions. So, inspiring conversation. It's all about creating conversations that really matter. We are diving into ways to connect deeply, break down barriers, and build moments that inspire trust and growth. Whether it's with your team or at work or in your everyday chats, we will bring more positivity, realness, and impact into every conversation. And because, as you know, last week I showed you I changed location because I am working now in a restaurant which is placed on Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and it's in Grundarfjörður. And I just wanted to show where, like, the way it's 2 hours and 20 minutes from my home. And then I wanted to show you the grand His Highness, Her Highness, They Highness, the mountain which is called Kirkjufell. And the mountain was, I kid you not, in Game of Thrones season 5. So, I am in the presence of greatness. As I am also in presence of greatness because today I am talking to a person who is in Canada, and she is French Canadian, and her name is, wait for it, Isabelle Fortin. Now, did I ruin your name?
You did not ruin my name. You said it a little bit more with a French accent than a
Oh,
French
sorry.
Canadian accent, but that's okay. I'll take it.
Okay, this is difficult because I have been watching with my wife on some creamies with from France, and then we are changed to the creamies from French Canadian crimes, and I was just like immediately I said, "Oh, they don't speak the French like the French do." So what is it? Do you know that? So how would you say your name in, like, as a French Canadian?
Isabelle Fortin.
And I said Isabelle. Like, was it?
Fortin.
Oh, so I was more sensual.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's the en is in France. In, I should say, in France is more um an sound, as in for us it's a little bit more, it comes from a little bit more from the nose. It's un, fortin, and
ah,
not fortin. So
so
it's
is
it's
it?
it's very close. It's just in my French Canadian ears, I hear the difference.
Okay. Well, I would guess that you will do that, but how is it? Has okay? I guess that there was a French immigrant who went to Canada
Yeah, the
and
first one,
didn't.
Jacques Cartier.
Yeah, yeah. So did they, like, have your French not evolved as in France?
Yeah, just
Did
not
that
the
question did that question come up? Because when I said it, I was just like, no, this did it come out right?
no, 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 absolutely. Actually, it's a quite legitimate question. It did evolve. It just didn't evolve the same way as the French from France. And
Okay.
even in France, you go to Marseille, they don't speak the same way they speak in Brittany or in Paris, or so it's the same thing, or in Lyon or in Nice. So it's the same thing for us. Even here in the province of Quebec, first of all, there are French Canadians everywhere in Quebec, not only in the province of Quebec, everywhere in Canada, sorry, and not only in the province of Quebec. But here you go to certain section or areas in the province, and they don't have the same expressions, they don't have the same accent as we do, and that's beautiful. And I think that a language should be alive, and it
Yeah,
is not built in a dictionary. It's built on the everyday use of that language.
but
So no,
do you then have to change to English because you don't?
that's
Be-
no.
it's just the same as Iceland and the Faroes, like the Faroe Islands. It's like like the people back in the days when the Vikings were coming from Norway. Like then some of them they stayed at Faroe Islands on the way over here, and then people came here to Iceland, and then our language just evolved and their language evolved. But if we meet, we have to like I can understand them, but they have to speak slow,
Mm.
and I have to speak slow. But then again, we just switch over to Danish or English or whatever. But it's funny how languages just go away, like they go and change, and they are a live mechanism. So let's hope that we are allowed to allow them to grow. But that was not what we were talking about.
Hey, we
I
can
will.
talk about whatever you wish. This is your show out here. I'm here for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Oh, I almost forgot. This is my show.
It
This
is.
is
Can you imagine that? This is the place where you're the king and the ruler.
yes, with my almighty purple hair. We have
Yes.
the same hair color
What
in
hair?
my. Well, my imaginary hair. Thank you.
No,
So,
that's okay.
well, you are the first French Canadian I'm speaking with because
Yeah.
next week I will have another French Canadian.
Oh,
How are the coincidences in this life?
I am
But he,
starting the trend.
yes, but he lives in California, so that's like a total different area.
He's
But
the traitor. No, no,
what
no. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
it depends. Let me give you a comment on that when I have spoken to him. It
Okay,
depends.
beautiful. I'm looking for the DM next week.
But our topic for this week, for this session, is like how empowering the individual, the ripple effect of authentic choices. But before we step into that, who is Isabelle Fortin? Okay,
See,
Isabelle.
that was better.
I could
My
make
name
a whole
woman.
episode on your name, like how to ruin a person's name.
Yeah. No, 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 no. No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Who am I? I'm
Oh, thank you.
I'm well, I'm a lot of things. I'm a sister, a daughter, a friend, I'm a girlfriend. I'm an animal lover, a dancer, and what I do for a living is I am a leadership consultant. So I help leaders
Well,
to be human centered because that's how you increase everything: retention, engagement, productivity, efficiency, and profitability. So that's in a nutshell.
but here, yes, but here is a kicker because you did not go like you are not okay. You say you are a daughter and you are a girl and you are this and that, but the kicker in your life story is that you decided to start your journey, like after high school or whatever, in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And I gather that when you started there, women were like just stepping in, or was there somebody? Did you have a role model and you said to your mother and father, as a father, I would say, like, Your what? What? Say what? Like, was he like, yay, my
Well,
daughter is
it was a
going
family
to
business.
what?
It was a
Oh,
family business.
so you
Actually,
are okay.
both
Yes.
my parents served in the Royal Canadian Air Force, both mom and dad. And funny story, just to prove how small this planet is, they were from the same little town in Quebec, Canada, and they were both their parents lived on the same street that was divided by a boulevard, and they met and got married in Baden, Germany.
No,
So, why
wait,
did
wait,
I?
wait, 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 wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like
He said,
what?
hang on, what?
What? They came from the same boulevard,
No, they came from the same street, but
the
that
same
street,
street.
yeah, that street was separated by a boulevard. So on one side of the boulevard was my maternal grandparents, on the other side was my paternal grandparents. However, you have to go back that in the my dad was born in 1939, my mom in 1941, and back then boys and girls did not attend the same school. And since they didn't
No.
have the same activities and the same kind of friends, and they weren't in they didn't circle with the same, they didn't hang with the same group of people, they had never met. And so my dad joined the military, was posted in Baden, and 2 years later, this tall French Canadian chick comes in a party where he is, and all the Frenchies would hang out together. And somebody goes and introduces him, and they start talking in French. And he says, "Where are you from?" He says, "She said, you'll probably won't know that that little town. It's a little town in Quebec. It's called Victoriaville." And his jaw dropped, and he said, "Huh?" He says, "I'm that's where my parents live." What, are you kidding? And what street and what street? And that's not where they had been born or raised, but when they met, that is the street both grandparents lived.
But did the grandparents know each other? Like, did
Nope.
what?
Nope.
How
In
is this?
fact, that boulevard was a great divide inside that community. And on one
Yeah.
side, they went to one church, and on the other side, they went to the other church, and they just never met. They were not similar people. They had very, very different activities, and so they had never met.
Like, this is mind blowing.
I know.
Do they know that they are like, they must be like one in a trillion, squillion, billion? Like this.
I
Wow.
have no idea. My mother passed away long time ago. So I don't know. I never actually uh it never dawned on me to actually
Ask them.
calculate what would be the odds of that happening. But now that you mention it, that I'd be curious now. But with ChatGPT, it's going to take me half a second.
But how is it like? Okay, if your parents, like, I'm just still digesting that the fact that they like were from the same street, but
Yeah,
the River Nile like
that's
split
right.
them up. But back then, so your mother is born in 1941. So I
Yeah.
gather that was in 61, 60 something where
And
they were
she
in
Yeah, she arrived in Germany. My dad arrived in Germany in 1961 and my mom in 1963. So they were in their early 20s. My
but
dad
that
was
must
a little older, so.
be also unusual that a woman of her age went to the military because back in the days when in the World War II, women were not in the army, they were at the factories, they were making the
Yeah.
bombs and
Yeah.
whatnot. So how, like, did you ever ask your mother about like why she chose the military?
No, I didn't have time. I was 5 when my mother passed away, so I didn't have time to
Oh,
ask these
sorry.
kinds of que No, it's okay.
Ah,
You didn't kill her, honey. Don't worry about it.
no.
Um,
Thank you.
you do that always, fascinates me when people apologize for finding out my mom passed. Yeah, you didn't kill her, so
No.
that's okay. She was taken by, cancer, you know? Uh, don't
Okay, it's the
cry,
first
you
time
know?
if ever when I tear up in this session.
Well, there you go.
Well,
So but
I'm
no,
just happy that
I never asked her. I didn't have time. I was too young. But she was she there wasn't a lot of women in the military, and even back then, as soon as you got pregnant, you were kicked
really,
out
uh,
for medical reasons. So you couldn't be in the 1960s, you could not be a mother and served in the military at the same time. So, but this is post Second World War. So the military was beginning to accept women, and yeah, so not only did she serve, but she went to Germany, and she asked to go to Germany.
it's
And
just unbelievable. This is
yeah,
just unbelievable
that's the
story.
kind of
It's a
person
great
she
story.
was.
Well, Rapasi, my friend from the UK, and I have also talked to him on the session. He says that I'm always apologizing. I am
Oh,
not,
that
but I think that like I was apologizing like because I did not kill your mother. Like that was extreme. Like it was a weird stank.
but I understand the sentiment. I really do, and I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Um, I I I'm always fascinated. See, I was 5 when my mom passed away,
uh,
so I'm always fascinated when people go, "Oh, I'm really sorry." I'm like, "Why are you sorry? Like, you didn't kill her." I have a tendency of correcting. It's not a real correction, but correcting people. If people say I'm sorry for your loss, then I don't say anything. But when they just go, "Hi, I'm sorry," I'm like, why are you apologizing? You had nothing
but
to do with
isn't
it.
it more because we are talking about the humanness
Yes.
that because you were only 5,
Yes.
then because it would have been different if you would have been 10 or 15, like but 5. So I hopefully you had some women figures in your life, like
Well,
or
first of all, my sister, but dad remarried. And I have to tell you, there was a huge sense of community, and all of the neighbors like picked us up, like literally picked us up and helped the entire family. I mean, my dad was a widower. He was 39, and he had a 5-year old, a 9-year old, and an 11-year old, and he didn't know how to boil an egg. But this was the 1970s. Men had
yeah,
not
yeah,
been
yeah.
allowed in the kitchen. It wasn't his fault. He
Oh,
just
no, 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 no,
didn't
yeah.
know because he had never had to learn. And so he did, but the community picked our family up and helped us in every single way possible. I remember for the first year that mom had passed, we would have lunch on weekdays, because this is the time where everybody would go back home to have lunch. And every weekday, we would walk from school to a neighbor's house, and we would w- eat with that family. And the next day was another neighbor, and the next day was another neighbor. And the third day was the maternal grandparents, and the following day was the paternal grandparents. So every day we had a home cooked meal, because women were stayed at home at that
Yeah.
time. And so yeah, and thank God for the community. But yeah, so
Well, come to think, because you said that your father didn't know how to boil an egg. Like it's unbelievable because by the with the fact that your mother chose to join the Canadian army, Like I would guess that she would have the whip on him and say, "Boil an egg," or
Um, actually, my dad was in charge of cleaning, washing the dishes and cleaning the house, which he still does to this day.
ah,
And he's going to be 86 years old in a month, and he's still the one that vacuums the entire house and he washes the dishes every day. So, but he was doing that even when he was growing up, so that was okay with him.
yeah.
But yeah, no, they were true partners. There wasn't the a boss or one overpowering the other. They were a true love partnership. It was a beautiful thing to see.
But then, okay, now you have to give me something about their role in the Canadian Air Force, and then what you chose to do in the Canadian Air Force. Like, is it in okay? Because we don't have a military here in Iceland, so the Canadian Air Force, is that where you did you fly fighter pilots and stuff?
No, my when I joined, my brother was an Air Force pilot. I was not. I was working in the offices, and my job was in, we call it TCON, it's training control. So it was my job to make sure that everybody in the squadron had all of their training, regardless of their trade, regardless of their rank, just to make sure, because the military is all about career progression.
Uh,
It's all about giving the tools to teach you to be better, teach you to improve, to develop new skills, and to add onto what you already know and what you're already capable of doing. So inside your own trade. So since we were 380 in the squadron when I was in. So it was my job to make sure that all the 380 were getting the necessary training in order to not only do their job correctly, but actually move up into the organization. So that's what I did. My dad was a safety systems tech, which is a fancy word to say that he was in charge of everything that had to do with the security around the airplane that was called the Voodoo, that doesn't exist anymore. And my mom was a supply tech. So but back to your original question, which we sidetracked, but that's okay. I love
no,
that.
no. You're
No,
not
no, no.
getting
I
off
don't.
that
I
that
don't.
easily.
I don't
No,
get
no, no,
to.
no, no,
Okay,
no, no,
I'm
no.
sorry. I'll say
It's my
okay.
show.
So yes,
So
it is.
when
Sorry, yes, sir.
because you
Hang on, hang
in
on,
your
hang on. I gotta sit at attention. I think I'm still capable.
I'm just thinking about, okay, you had 380 people under your, like, you had to file everything and what courses and whatnot they had. Did you add a course in boiling an egg?
No, no, no. But however, I in one of my leadership training, I we had to teach a class, and I chose to teach a class on how to fix a helicopter with duct tape. Of
Okay,
course,
now
it was
now
a
you're just bragging.
make-believe class.
Now
It was just about the teaching skills and not what you were teaching, but I
no, yeah.
really wanted to make it funny, so I taught a class about how to fix a helicopter with duct tape. And all the aircraft technicians in the audience, because there was a few of them, are still remember to this day. It's my lesson to this day.
Okay, I like now I have to ask. Like, don't say so much because my brain just like my ADHD. I think I just
Take notes,
can
honey. You're
you
gonna have to invite me over again. Damn.
can you really fix a helicopter with duct tape?
God no. Well, okay, hang on. First of all, I wouldn't know because I
You
was not
know,
an aircraft technician. And B, I assume that the answer is God no.
don't let that woman ever come on near plane.
Nope. You can fix a lot
But
of things with duct tape, though.
okay, how long did you stay in the army for? Like
10
this
years.
is 10 years, and
Yeah.
then when? But do you have like okay? You mentioned that you were in this Royal Canadian Leadership School, and like you have some options, well, to graduate or qualify for something else because. At a certain point, you need to go step maybe out to the civilian life. So were there some programs that like because when you are in this because the military is a very specific things and then when you get out to the civilian life what happens sometimes people are just like and maybe as your father couldn't boil an egg or like whatever
It
like
had
so
nothing to
so,
do with
so
the military.
no I know but no it's just like how is it to step out of that world and into a civilian life like how
Scary.
was it for you like
It
after
was scary.
10 years
It
it was
was scary.
scary and
Yeah, it was
uh,
scary because that's all I knew.
yes
So I
and
and I
and
didn't know how my skills that I had been developing for a decade were transferable to corporate America. And some weren't, and some were, and some are still being applied in my everyday life. What I think that what is the easiest thing to do when you step outside the military and you try, quote unquote, try to find a job is every employer has the misconceived notion that you must be disciplined because you were in the military. And I wasn't.
yes
I am now, but I wasn't at the time. You have to
what
remember, I
really
joined the military, I was 17 years old. When I left a decade later, I mean, late 20s is still not a full blown adult. It is technically, but in the reality of things, looking at it from my 50s now, it's like, you're not a full blown adult when you're like your late 30s, late
no
20s.
no no
You're
no no
still
no
trying to figure out who you are and what you don't like and how you fit into this world. So, yeah, everybody thought that if they hired me, they were going to get an extremely disciplined
yeah,
person.
so you would be standing in canteen and get
Yeah,
in line
well, I
but
was
no
25.
but okay now I can understand that you were scared shitless stepping out and you were 27 and you had never that at that time you had never have had a civilian
Nope.
like worked in the civilian life
Well, part-time in high school, yeah, and it wasn't a McDonald's, but let's say the equivalency of a McDonald's restaurant.
does it
But
count
other than that, no. Yeah.
does it count
Yeah,
well you
most
knew how to well you learned to fry a burger then. But then as you are like a 27-year-old and you are standing at those crossroads what the heck went through your mind like why did you decide to leave the army and go out and figure out what you wanted to do
uh, hmm, a little bit of a spur of the moment. I loved the sense of belonging and the camaraderie that we get in the military. I loved the sense of duty and serving my country. What I didn't like was my actual day-to-day job. And I did look, had I found a particular trade that would have tickled my fancy at that time, I would more than likely would have just remustered and gone to that trade. But I really didn't find anything that I thought would be fulfilling um, for me as an individual inside the organization. So I just went, hey, in Canada, 93% of the world don't make a living with in the military. So if they can, I can. So I jumped
Mhm.
out of the boat and my first civilian paycheck, I looked at the amount on the check and I went, what the fuck did I do?
So you were just like
Yeah.
I missed my military.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was starting over,
Yeah,
right?
you had it
I
because
wasn't
the other ones they had some years ahead of you. So
exactly.
yeah,
So I went, what the seriously? Why did I do this
but
to myself?
yeah, but how was it that like you say that in your bio on your website you say that like you noticed a harsh contrast to your military experience. But like, when was it that you, like, as you say, the corporate world's every person for themselves mentality clashed with my leadership philosophy, and that's why maybe that's a good turn to like Rabassi. He asked, were the military leadership attitudes different from the private sector leaderships? Isn't that because in the military you have a line of like there are some rules
Hmm.
in the leadership. So
Hmm.
when you get out, then this is not the case. Or how? Let's go for the difference in attitude in the leadership.
Well, my first civilian boss, I I I remember I didn't work there for long. I worked there for only 5 months, but I remember looking at her going, she has no leadership skills. Why is that? She must be an extremely bad boss. So I didn't make much of it. I was trying to find my bearings and trying to fit into this new reality. Just the fact it's I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but it truly is not. Just the fact that I had to decide every morning what I had to wear that day was quite an adjustment because in the military you get up and you know what to wear. You just put your
Yeah, yeah,
clothes on and that's it.
yeah.
And too much choice is like not having enough, right? So every morning it was like, what? Oh, it's true. I don't have a uniform. I have to figure out what I'm going to wear today. And does this match with this? And does this clean and whatever? So beyond that, when I got to my second civilian job, I stayed there for a couple of years. And I remember looking at her going, it just happens to be two women supervisor. And going, okay, so she has no leadership skills either. So it took getting to the third job to figure out that the problem was the lack of leadership training. Because in the army, and I've spoken now with people that have served in the military in 19 different countries. So, and all say the same thing. So, in order to get the promotion, you need the skills in your trade. So let's say your the next promotion you needed to be a qualification level 4. Well, you need to go to a course to acquire the qualification level 4 of your trade, and then you have that. Then you need time in. So let's say to be in the Canadian Air Force, back then, I don't know anymore, but back then, in order to be, let's say, a corporal, you would have to have 4 years in. Well, if you have 3 years and 9 months, you're not eligible for your promotion. And the last thing, which is the most important thing in regards to your question, is in order to get a leadership position, you have to have leadership training. And if you don't have that training, you don't qualify to get the promotion, period. So that is what was completely shocking to me, considering that leaders have a bigger impact on their employees' health than their medical doctor have. Why don't corporation companies, regardless of the size, actually train their leaders in leadership? But that's not what they do. They take the best, and I always use the sales department. They take the best salesperson that always hits the highest number of sales, and they say, oh, wow, this person is excellent in sales. We're going to put that person in charge of the sales department. And then that person kills the entire sales department. Why? Because they might be good in sales, but they may not be either interested or good or willing to learn leadership skills. Yet corporations spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year in the US alone to train their sales skills, but not their leadership skills. And that is the biggest mistake. And that's the biggest difference between the corporate world and the military.
But
Sorry, I got
okay,
serious there for a second.
no, no, because it is a serious issue because
True.
not everybody is born to be a leader.
No, and not everybody wants to either.
No, because I have always said that I'm fine with just being in the back and just like I can produce stuff and I can do stuff, but I am not necessarily the one who has to be like "Luh, luh, 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 luh." But what I'm thinking now is okay, you are 27 years old when you step out of the military and you have the three bosses, and when is it that you realize that you would be best off teaching people leadership skills? Like, if you would think now, could you have done better than those three women?
In their circumstances, I don't have the answer to that because the three of them did the best that they could with what they knew.
Yeah.
Um, and at that particular time in my life, I was facing other demons that were more pressing on a personal level. So the answer to your first question is it took me about another decade. The fact that I lost my mom when I was so young, the repercussion of that on my personal life took a big, big, big toll about 2 decades after she had passed. So
Yeah.
I had to heal that first before I got to, okay, so now I can look at the outside world and go, huh, okay, so there's something missing here. So I have always been teaching in one way or another. I taught yoga and Pilates and I was teaching in the military, and regardless of what company I worked for, I was always the person that was in charge of training everybody. Just that's one of my natural abilities,
Yeah.
and people tapped into that. But before I decided to make it a living, I was in my 40s. So a decade and a half ago now. Not that we're talking
Yeah.
about age on this show. That's not what we're saying. I'm just,
No, no, yeah, it's just because there is a difference between if you're 25-year-old or a 50-year-old
yes.
leader, like when you can, because you have some skills that you
Mhm,
evolve and you
mhm.
learn, live and learn and or whatnot. And now Rab, he is asking if you do you think successful leaders lead from the back of the teams or the front of the teams?
Well, that depends on the circumstances. Because
Yeah,
there
right.
are moments where the leader must be in front. There are moments where the leader must be in the back, pushing everybody forward. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
the best place for a leader is on its side, going, all right, let's go. This is the way we're going. And every single place they are leading from is good. It depends of the situation. So we talk about command and control, and now with leadership coaching, a lot of people, a lot of coaches out there, and I don't blame them, they'll go, command and control is wrong. Well, it depends of the
yeah. On the
situation.
situation,
If the
yes.
building is on fire, it is not the right time to ask how people are feeling about it. It's the right time to be command and control and saying, "Get the hell out of this burning building." So
It's like a Sesame Street teaching. Like, do you want to leave the building? And it's just,
you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
In the everyday life, is command and control the right
yeah,
approach? More than likely it isn't. But again, it depends. Sometimes it's the right approach is democratic, and
yeah.
sometimes it isn't. It
And sometimes
depends.
it is it is the owner. Like it's my money. Like I do what I want. Like,
Yes,
but of course
exactly.
it's good to have the people with you, not
Yes,
against you. And then it starts like then you have to fire people, and then you have to hire people, and then you have to start training them again. And like how much money can you lose by doing that? Because
exactly.
as you were saying, uh, the big impact on from leaders to the employees on their wealth,
Health.
well-being and stuff. That,
Yep,
that is just, you know, so it is a big question. Like you have to think, but it is difficult. And sorry, there is no leadership school, but somehow also people who tend to, I don't know, are the people who are vocal, the most vocal people who get the jobs, or like do you take the extrovert, do you take the introvert? What, like when you are teaching this, like, or when you're going through the agenda in your, like what you are doing and what you're teaching, is it, how can you find the true leader, or should we have a flat structure, or do we have the hierarchy? Like where is your thoughts on flat or hierarchy structure?
it depends on the organization. There is no one size fits all. And
Oh,
you
well,
know
that's
what?
true. Yeah.
It is true that the loudest wheel gets the oil, right? The wheel that squeaks the loudest gets the oil first. That's the way it is, and that's how the way it's always been. So if you're in a store and somebody is screaming, all of the sudden the manager runs over and takes care of that screaming client. Is that the right thing to do? I that that would depend on the store, and that would depend on the manager. So, one of the things that's fascinating to me, I'm fascinated by human beings. And one of the things that's extremely fascinating is in the entire world, we're what, close to 9 billion people now? The
Uh-huh.
estimated amount of people that are true sociopath is only 3%. In Fortune 500 companies, the CEOs of these companies, the quantity of sociopath are between 6 and 8%. So
Hi.
what got them there? Right?
Yes.
And you know what? It is unfortunately not at all surprising because they're extremely charming, they're manipulative, and they get other people to do things for them, right? So, what is the best leadership style? This is not going to be popular, and I know not going to be attracting clients by saying that, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is to adapt your leadership style for every individual you have on your team. And I know everybody says, well, that's just not doable. Yes. And it is doable. And when you look at what we call the natural born leaders, we all have one example, one boss. We either worked for them or we saw them and they were in another department and we watched them and we wish we could work for that person. They go into one person's office and they're all buddy buddy and all good, and then they go to the next person's office and it's like their demeanor changes. It's like people say, well, that's not authentic. I'm like, what? Why is that not authentic? That's being adaptable. And every person, after you look at Maslow's, pyramid of needs, of human needs, after that, everybody's needs are different. Everybody's brain isn't connected the same way. So if you're extremely structured as an individual, and I walk in your office and I sit down and I babble for half an hour before I get, and the more I talk and the more I get down in my seat, I'm the only thing I'm doing is I'm pissing you off. I'm annoying the bejesus out of you.
Uh-huh.
You're like, would you get to the point? Right? That's the way you are. And I get to the next person and it's quite the opposite. So you have to adapt your leadership to the individual. That's how you tap into the unique abilities and that's how you get what you want.
But you mention again on your website, like you have to the leaders, this like you empower human-centered leaders
Yes.
to tap into the uniqueness of every single team member.
Yes.
But how do you have any tools, or is it an Excel sheet, or is it a Google sheet, or like how do you figure out? Because okay, granted, I have a tool that I can send a questionnaire to a team, and I can know by the questionnaire takes 10 minutes, and then I know, okay, and I could read from the questionnaire, oh, this person, oh, it's probably from IT because they just want to, like, we have to do this, and they all just like take the program and go, and they want to just dive into the work. Whereas some people, oh, I need to read a little bit more about this. Or there are some people who want, like, can we have a meeting, can we meet tomorrow, like the need, as you say. But how can we figure out the uniqueness in every member of the team, like how, because leaders also have to think about them above themselves, isn't it? They are a part of a, and they have, like, oh, you have to pick up, you have to get more revenue, you have to do this, you have to, they have like stuff, and
Mhm.
they can't just be nitty gritty, like, oh, do you have a headache, oh, you can take the day off tomorrow.
Mhm.
So how, like, how do you see this work in finding a person's uniqueness, and when you say this to a leader, well, you have to tap into the uniqueness of a person, and they just, do they shiver, or do they, like,
They
that
roll
depends
their eyes
also on the,
back.
yeah, they wrote like, my people, they are all unique.
Well,
Don't you talk about happiness to me.
the answer to your question is as complex as the question. So
Yeah, I
there's
know.
two ways to get to know your people and know how to adapt yourself, your communication and your leadership style to every single individual. The first one is by investing a lot of time, energy, trial and error, by doing the guessing game. And when I say time, I'm talking years here.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And maybe you're going to say something, the employee's not going to react well. Maybe they're extremely good, they have an extremely good poker face and they can hide the fact that you're aggravating them. I have no poker face, so for me that's very easy. um and all of that with a
Yeah.
lot of error, and that method is extremely costly. The second method is by using a psychometric assessment. Honestly, there are psychometric assessment at for $30. There are some at $1,500, and some of them are better. And the $1,500 ones aren't necessarily better than the $30 one.
Mm-hmm,
It all
mm-hmm.
depends, and it depends what kind of information you actually desire to have.
Yeah.
But as far as psychometric assessments, they are exactly like treadmills. You get out what you put in. So if you take the treadmill, you put it in your living room in front of the television, and every time you're watching something, Game of Thrones, for example, and you're on the treadmill walking, chances are you're getting fit. chances are the treadmill is giving you an extremely great result.
Yeah.
Now, if you put the treadmill in the basement, in the room you never go in, and all it does is either serve as a coat rack or collect dust, well, then it's the same treadmill, but you're not getting anything out of it. So 100% of the employees that I work with, I'm hired by a company, I do the assessment of the leader and the employees. All of them, no exception. I've been doing this for a decade and a half. All of them that have already done a psychometric assessment all tell me a variation of what I'm about to tell you. Oh, yeah, I've done this kind of assessment before. I found out that I have great abilities in this, that, and the other thing. I found out that I'm, extremely detailed oriented. And within a week, the report was in my boss's desk and I never heard about it again. So,
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that you do something for the employees and then you can say, well, I did and check, and then it's just whoosh.
and they think that it will magically do something. So,
Yeah.
option A of getting to know your people was, we said it, costly, time consuming, aggravating, stressful, leading to burnout. And at the end of it, you lose your employee anyway. That's option A. And option B is psychometric assessment, whichever one you want, and actually doing something with the result. It's going
Yeah.
to take about 90 minutes per employee and then a little bit of coaching. Extremely efficient, increases productivity, increases efficiency, increases profitability, increases engagement, retention, you name it.
Well-being, happiness, and whatnot.
90% of the people, the leaders out there, choose option A.
Hey, yes.
Well,
Why do they
if they
do
want to
that?
complicate their lives, that's fine.
Yeah, but is
I'm
that
there for the
because they?
people who want option B. That's where I show up. And
I
I
am
will
also
argue with
I
you
am also there. But why is it that leaders choose option A?
because it's more okay. So, because in their mind, it is less effort when it truly isn't. See, the reason it command and control was in place for so long is because it's easier on the leader.
Yeah, they don't have to involve themselves in the other
No,
people's life.
exactly. And you don't have
Ugh.
to involve yourself in other people's lives. You just have to care about what they care about. That's it.
Show interest, like yeah.
You don't have to find out what they did on the weekend and how old their mother is and how heavy they were when they were born. That's not what it's about. It's about tapping into how they function in the world. And you know what? Option B, not only is it better for you as a leader, yes, it's going if you transition from option A to option B, there's going to be chaos a little bit in between, but option A, you're living your daily life in chaos anyway. You just don't know it. So that transition is a little bit like when you're doing your spring cleaning. So you empty the first closet, empty the second closet, and you empty the drawers, and then all of a sudden you look around you and there's things all over the place, and you go, "Oh my God, this has gotten worse." But it gets worse before it gets better. It's just you're picking what you're keeping, what you're throwing, what you're giving away, what's still good, what's not good, who you're going to give this to, and then when you put everything back into their new place and their new perspective, everything is easier and it runs more smoothly. It's the same thing, but command and control seems to be easier on the leader, but it does not work. Losing an employee cost 1.5 to 2 times, not percent, times their annual salary. That's an astonishing amount of money. It's incredible. So Take a fraction of that, invest it in option B, accept that you're going to it's not going to be more chaotic. It's going to be chaotic in a different way, in a way you're not used to, which you're accompanied, you're being walked through this process. And the ripple effect of tapping into the unique abilities on top of what I've mentioned before, increasing retention, profitability. I'm going to say that again slowly. Increasing profitability, which is apparently why we are in business, to make money.
Yes. But
Increasing that and the ripple effect on these people's lives and their community, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's the snowball of happiness all the way through. But people still, they like to complicate their lives and they go for option A. Well, okay,
yeah,
come back when you're pissed off and tired and burnt out.
I know that this will come as a shock to you, but we have been talking for nearly 55 minutes,
I
56
know.
minutes.
You're gonna have
It's
to
like
have me
when
again.
time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, man.
But because Rap, my friend, good friend from the UK, he says, knowing what you know now, what would be the single piece of advice you would give to a newly promoted leader? Well, I
Invest.
know what you would say. Like,
Invest. And honestly, this is not about pitching my services. Of course, if people want to work with me, I'll be happy to at least connect with them. But this is not a sales pitch, not by any stretch of the imagination. Command and control does not work, and it will work even less with generations to come, because the new generations, the ones that are in their 20s and 30s now, they saw their mothers and fathers break their backs and get nothing at the end, and now they want purpose into the workplace. And that didn't exist in the 1970s or 80s or even 90s. So that's a new reality that pretty much every employer is going to face. It a lot of them are facing it now, but in years and decades to come. So the first and biggest piece of advice is seek help. There's nothing bad about having a coach guide you through that. And for the love of all that is good in the world, invest in your leadership skills and invest in knowing how your employees' brains are connected. The needs of one is not the need of the other. And for yourself, how is your brain connected? How do you show up in the world? Because what got you promoted will not get you the next promotion. What got you here won't get you there. That's not how this works. We need to be in constant evolution, and thank God for that. That's how we design great things.
well,
Shut
isn't
up
that
now.
isn't that, no, you should, well, we could go on forever. So maybe we will have to do Isabelle Fortin 2.0.
Anytime. It'd be a great pleasure to have you to be on your
So
show again. I love
So,
this
so,
conversation.
so as underneath your website against the ordinary.org, that is your website.
Yeah.
Please, people, go and check that out. And like Isabel, it's just, I am so happy
Me
these
too.
days. Do you know why?
No.
Because I'm meeting so many fun people. And it's just like, you inspire me, and well, you made me also laugh because you said so many things that were weird, but
I try
that's
to be
different.
entertaining.
Yes, but they're also like the small things, like about your parents, and it's just this story, and it's so inspiring, and just and
Oh, and you don't know the half of it. Can I take one more minute? You're gonna be
okay,
attach
yes,
your jaw here. Like, hold on to
okay,
your jaw. Okay, so my maternal grandmother died inside the church at my sister's wedding.
no, You are not saying,
I
did
am
she,
I'm no, I truly I know I'm laughing, but this is not a joke. My
did she
mother's
really like,
mother died
mhm.
inside the church during my sister's wedding.
Did she hear her say, I do?
No, no, she
Why am I laughing? This is horrible. I feel like a horrible person now. Okay, this is just ridiculous. Let's quit before you start saying something
that was
else.
like 30 years ago, so we can laugh
Oh
about it
my
now.
god! Yeah, it's okay. It's yeah, water under the bridge or the grave.
Yeah,
But Rap, he wants to say. He says, "Thank you for such great insights, Isabel, and
thank you.
keeping head in smiling." Like, well, as Rap knows, there, you just have to say like this much, and then I will be laughing. So that, like, it doesn't matter what you people say, I will always be laughing. And then Huldar, a friend of mine here in Iceland, he said thanks for all the inspiring session. So just Isabel, I hope you have had so as much fun as I have,
I
and just
did.
because this is just now I will go and think about your grandmother. This is just a ridiculous story. Your poor sister, is she like what did like? Don't you dare! This is my day.
And yet the worst thing is when she got divorced, when she announced that she was getting divorced from her first husband, I told her, "Huh, so maybe grandma was trying to tell you something on your wedding
Yeah.
day."
Is there anybody in the room that is against this? You are. I need to like next inspiring session, next inspiring conversation will be with another French Canadian, and let's hope he is as funny as Isabel. But I know he was a dancer, so he was touring with I think Paula Abdul. So I'm excited because Paula Abdul, she was the hottest chick on
Well, I'm
earth
gonna have to watch then.
when I was young. So André Paradis, I hope again was that correct? Would you say that in French Canadian? André
Would you say?
André Paradis.
André Paradis. Yeah, that was
Oh,
close. Yeah.
thank you. And now I have it on recording, so I can say it and say it. So that will be next week on Thursday, the 20th of March, and where we will be talking about understanding gender intelligence, building stronger relationships through better communication. So
Mm.
maybe your older sister should talk to you or listen to this, but I don't know. Like, or your grand? No, she can't. So just Isabel, it has been fantastic, and
Thank
just
you.
thank you so much because this was awesome. I'm just like
Mm.
I'm buzzing. I will be killing my people. Like I'm going for work now, like, and I have to go wait tables and stuff. So I will be killing the customers. Do you know?
Do you know?
Do you want to hear a good story about a grandmother who died? But thank you very much, and
Thank
just
you for having me.
keep on rocking. And I hope that people will look at your work, and it's just brilliant. Thank you very
Thank
much.